time, because we talking like what, like mid 2000s right now. What we
This
talking
was
about?
like this was like 2009, 2010.
Well, that's still kind of early. Still kind of early, because if we look at like what opioids, Percocets
Are doing today.
yeah, we look at what it became today. Like, I mean, one of Future's most popular songs is called Molly Percocet. Like,
Yeah.
that's what he say the whole song. So it's crazy. Like, it's crazy. Like, to see like what it is become today versus like how it was going like back then. So like what I kind of want to ask is, what I want to ask you is like being at the threshold, kind of at the threshold of that culture in Detroit. Like, what is some of the stuff that like you seen at that time, like being in that life? Because you said like people get, when they need them, they get sick. I know you kind of had to deal with these people on a daily basis and stuff like that. So like, just kind of share with us like some of the things like you had to deal with, or some of the things that you seen being in that life at the time. Because now we see it on like TVs, documentaries and stuff, but like you were actually in it.
Yeah.
And you were in it like at the beginning stages, where that's kind of like the worst stage, because nobody knows anything.
Yeah, like during that time, you got to think like it wasn't popular to do none of this stuff. This was like what we would call white boy drugs, or we had this terminology like, oh, we don't do that type of stuff. Now everybody around you is doing these type of things that we used to look at it like, nah, why would you do that? The music kind of infused that into our culture indirectly, but now it's there, like it's the thing to do. But during this time, you didn't have no black people that I really knew really dealing with any of the opioids like that. They was all hustling them, trying to get them to the different culture and trying to take them out of the city, because that's where the money was at. I was watching stuff that was $1, $2 going for $20, $30 of a transition from one state to another. So you watch something that happened so fast and organically that it was like the money was crazy. And then you getting it drop shipped to you, and you getting it in bundles, and you watching something happen so fast that it was crazy money at the time. But then involving with the people, like I watched people jump out of windows. Like, I didn't see it, but I heard the story, like what they did, because they started getting into the bath salts and the fake opioids, trying to keep up with the high because they couldn't afford the actual things. So you got soldiers jumping out of windows, you got people killing each other. This is all happening in the States. This is stuff the military don't put out there in the world. But I'm watching this in the military, guys killing themselves from depression and all this stuff in the States. This is stuff that people won't know about unless you in that type of format. And then not only that, I was dealing with the city of Fayetteville. I was dealing with their city people, and they was into the same thing. So you watching stuff that happening, and you knowing what's going on, but not really knowing like the really impact of what's really happening, because these guys are wigging out, because some of them is ODing, some of them is trying to do synthetic drugs, and they're trying to makeshift it, you know what I'm saying? And they're doing all of this stuff that they're trying to stay under the radar, but at the same token, they don't know they're killing themselves. And you're not doing it, or at least I wasn't doing it to see people down bad. I started doing it because I thought I was helping people in the beginning, and then it was helping me. But after I started looking into it, I'm like, dang, people was really going out bad in some of these situations because they couldn't get it, or because they did too much of it, or because they got lost in it. You got guys that get lost in it. They start with doing one. Then you get some guys getting up to doing 10 a day. That's a lot of dope in your system just to function. And I'm talking about that's just to function. Anything less than 10 that day, they wigging out. They can't even function. They can't even go to work. They can't even do their job. When I think about it now, I'm like, dang, that's kind of crazy. But when it was happening, I was really like, it's not that big of a deal. people would be like, you don't think you're doing that wrong? Nah, what am I doing wrong? I was nonchalant to the situation because I didn't really think that that was something bad in that sense because I didn't understand what was really happening. But the after effect, when I look back into it, I'm like, nah, that was really like you was sending people out bad, but didn't really know the effects you was doing to the people because I wasn't doing it. It wasn't affecting me. After I give you something and I leave, I don't know nothing about nothing. But then people start telling me stories like, yeah, you know, buddy, da da da, or this happened to daddy, or boom boom boom, or they robbing people just to come see you and this and that. And I'm like, huh? I never knew that. Then some of the guys that I was dealing with in the streets and hanging with after I went up, they started telling me about all these horror stories. The spots getting robbed and this person almost got shot and they had to take a gun from this or this. Like, just the crazy stuff that I never really seen because of how I would move. And I was moving differently than anybody else because I had so much to my background to understand how to move a little different. So if you look up my situation or you look up what was going on, like even in my stuff, it was like that was one of the main things of why it took them so long because it's like this guy is moving so smoothly that we can't really figure out what.
Like, he moving like a real organization.
Because they would be like, yo, meet me here. I'm going to go scope it out, tell you to meet me somewhere else. Scope that out, tell you to meet me somewhere else. So by the time we actually make transaction, it's 2-3 moves out. If you was telling me or following me, you don't know what I had did because I made it so inconspicuous because I didn't even know I was moving like that until they started reading back my record of trial. Like, this guy was really organized to a level that we was kind of confused on how he was doing it because he was living this military lifestyle, but he wasn't in the military at all when we was really researching on how he was moving in the streets because he had so many dealings with so much stuff that it was like, who is this guy for real? And that's kind of what led to everything. And once it all hit the fan, it was like, dang, I had to digest all of that. But at this time, I'm sitting down. You know, I can't go nowhere. So I ain't got no choice but to kind of reflect on everything. So then that's what got me to writing. And that's what made me write a book. And then I started writing my autobiography. And now I'm planning on putting that out. And it's like all of that led into the music, which made me start rapping.
Right.